On the night the Titanic sank, there may have been another ship close enough to see her distress signals, and its captain would spend the rest of his life being called a coward. His name was Stanley Lord, captain of the SS Californian. Unlike the Titanic, the Californian had already stopped for the night. Lord had seen ice ahead, and rather than risk pushing through it in the dark, he ordered his ship to wait until morning. It was the cautious decision. A few miles away, or maybe more than a few, the Titanic was still moving at high speed through the same dangerous region of the Atlantic. Just before midnight, the Californian's wireless operator, Cyril Evans, sent the Titanic an ice warning. But the Titanic's senior wireless operator, Jack Phillips, was buried in a backlog of passenger messages trying to reach Cape Race in Newfoundland. When Evans broke in, Phillips snapped back, shut up, I am working Cape Race." Evans listened a little longer, then he turned off his wireless set and went to bed. Minutes later, the Titanic struck the iceberg, and soon after, men aboard the Californian began noticing something strange on the horizon. A distant ship, fully lit, and white rockets climbing into the sky. A ship firing rockets in the middle of the North Atlantic is not doing it for decoration. But in 1912, the rules were messier. Shipping lines sometimes used their own colored rockets as company signals, meant to identify vessels or announce their presence. Distress rockets were supposed to be fired at short intervals. They could be any color, though the Titanics were white, and that was one of the fatal ambiguities. The officers on the Californian saw rockets. They reported that they were white. But they did not seem to rise very high in the sky. Lord asked if they were company signals. His men could not say. So instead of waking the wireless operator, the one man who could have checked instantly whether anyone nearby was calling for help, Lord told his crew to keep watching and keep trying to reach out via the Morse lamp. That decision would haunt his name forever, because the men on the Californian were not seeing a clear cinematic disaster. They were seeing distant lights through a freezing Atlantic haze. Some modern Titanic researchers argue that unusual atmospheric conditions may have distorted what both ships saw that night. A cold mirage or super refraction could have made ships appear closer, farther away, smaller, or strangely shifted on the horizon. That may help explain another eerie failure. The Titanic tried to signal the mystery ship with a Morse lamp. The Californian tried to signal the ship it could see, but neither side seemed to understand the other. To the Californian's officers, the distant lamp did not look like clear Morse code. It looked like a weak flicker, almost like a candle or a blinking star. And the Californian stayed where it was, still stopped and surrounded by ice. The contrast with Captain Arthur Rostron of the RMS Carpathia could not have been sharper. The Carpathia was roughly 58 miles away when she received the Titanic's distress call, but Rostron turned his ship around immediately. He pushed through dangerous ice at speed and prepared his crew before they arrived. Lifeboats, blankets, doctors, coffee, rescue stations. By morning, the Carpathia had saved more than 700 people. The Californian arrived too late. The inquiries that followed needed answers. The public wanted someone to blame. The British inquiry concluded that the Californian had seen the Titanic's distress rockets, that she was probably only 8 to 10 miles away, and that she might have saved many lives if she had acted. Lord was never criminally charged, but his reputation was destroyed anyway. For the rest of his life, he insisted that the ship his crew saw was not the Titanic. And later, evidence complicated the story. When the Titanic's wreck was found in 1985, it proved the ship's own distress position had been wrong by about 13 miles. That discovery helped prompt a British re-examination in the 1990s. Investigators concluded that the Californian was probably farther away than the original inquiry believed, possibly around 17 to 18 miles, not 8 to 10. That made the rescue question less simple. Maybe the Californian could not have reached the Titanic in time to save everyone. Maybe the strange lights and distorted horizon really did confuse the officers watching from the deck. Maybe Stanley Lord was made to carry too much blame for a disaster caused by many failures. But one simple action could have turned mystery into certainty that night. If only he had woken the wireless operator and asked him to listen in, They would likely have heard, loud and clear given the close distance between them, that the Titanic was in trouble. After the Titanic, ocean liners could no longer afford to let the wireless room go silent. New regulations pushed ships toward continuous radio watches, so a distress call would not be missed simply because the operator had gone to bed. Because on April 15, 1912, that uncertainty was enough to cost lives.